tools from the last 8 years onwards, and my total IT experience is like 9 years. So currently I have been working as an Informatica consultant, and I am responsible for designing the ETL solution and handling the team activities. So I am basically the Informatica certified developer as well as administrator. So not only in Informatica Powercenter, I have worked under different ETL tools like SSIS and the data stage, and even the reporting tools like SAP BO. So before we start with the actual webinar, so we'll try to I'll little go through the BigClasses. So BigClasses is the one which is established around so I think 5 years ago. So it has been handling the different courses, and so I have been working under BigClasses from the last 2 years, and have trained over more than 300 students. All right. So here are the topics that will be covered as a part of today's webinar, right? So we'll try to understand what is an ETL. So why ETL is required. So what is Informatica Powercenter, and what are the different Informatica products? Why do we have to use Informatica, and what is the architecture, and what are the different editions that we have? What are the different client tools, and the job trends and the course topics we'll try to understand in the current session. So basically, for any organization or any company, so data plays a major role. Nowadays, companies are storing the data in different forms, like they are storing the data in different RDBMS, they are storing the data within the cloud, they are storing the data in any kind of ERP solution or ERP application, or even we handling even the unstructured data. So in order to perform the business understanding, or in order to have the better understanding of the business and identify how the business is running and identifying the growth of the business in order to survive in the current competitive market, so companies should have the improved business decisions for modernizing the business. So the issue that we have here is that, so we have certain business jargons are present, like so we are not able to perform the business, effective decision making. We are not able to perform the historical intelligence or the enhanced, we don't have the enhanced business intelligence, and we don't have the improved proficiency in governing and in the governance. So all these are the business jargons that we have observed when you have the data present in the different applications. So in order to have a better understanding of the business, what we do is that we can integrate the data that is present in multiple systems into a homogeneous or the uniform data store, right? So this process of integrating the data from all the different systems to create a uniform data store is what you call it as a data integration. So when you talk about the data integration, it's like we have the data. Basically, companies are storing the data, as we have seen here. We are storing the data in the cloud computing systems. We are storing the data in different ERP systems like PeopleSoft or SAP, right, or the CBEL. And we have different databases like a SQL Server, Oracle, or Postgre, or Teradata. And we have the unstructured data present in some Hadoop, right? So all the data that we have, so since we have some issues with this business jargons, we are integrating the data into a homogeneous data store, which we call it as a data warehouse. So this process of integrating the data from multiple applications and loading the data into a uniform data store is called as a data integration. So the data integration process, basically it contains 3 activities, like it's a data extraction, it's a data transformation, and the data loading. So data extraction is nothing but it is the process of reading the data with high performance and minimal impact on the source systems. When I say source systems, it could be all these, any of these systems, right? It could be any of these systems. So we are going to extract the data from the source system that we have with a minimal impact on them, right? And we transform the data into the homogeneous format or the consistent format, and we perform the loading into the data warehouse. So the data warehouse here, it's nothing but it's a concept or the process that we follow in order to perform the business analysis. So a data warehouse is nothing but it's a database that we have. It can be built on any RDBMS, which is useful for the purpose of business analysis. So when we go with this data integration, so the data integration is nothing but we can say, in other words, it's a ETL process, extraction, transformation, and loading process, where we do that into the homogeneous data store or the uniform data store. So this ETL process is basically it's a time-consuming process that we have where we do that, right? So that is the reason, in order to have the business analysis, since we have the homogeneous data store here, we can perform the business analysis. We can identify how the growth is present. We can understand how the business is running. So whether it is going into the loss zone or whether it is going into the profit zone, we can understand that. We can identify on which products the growth is actually there. So we can identify the less moving product, right? So less moving product. So all these things we can understand only when you have the uniform data store. Right? So that is where the data integration will help us to go with. So Informatica Powercenter will stand here. So the ETL process that we do, the data integration process that we are performing here into the uniform data store, the Informatica Powercenter will help to do that. So basically Informatica Powercenter is the unified data integration platform. It's a data integration platform which allows the organization to access the data from multiple source systems, transform the data into the homogeneous format, and deliver the data at any speed. So it works like an ETL tool, which is useful for extracting the data from the source, transforming the data, and loading the data into the target. So as we have discussed before, so ETL process basically includes three things like data extraction, data transformation, and data loading. So data extraction is the process of extracting the data. Data transformation is the process of modifying the data or transforming the data as per the business requirements, and loading the data is nothing but loading into the warehouse system. So this process of ETL in the Informatica Powercenter is called as a mapping. So what is meant by mapping? So mapping is nothing but it's a graphical representation of a data flow from source to target. It basically defines the ETL process. You can see here. So we have the source called as the employee. So it's a sample mapping that we have. We have the source called as the employee, and we have multiple targets are present. So employee underscore dimension. Multiple targets are present. So when you run this mapping, the data that is present in the employees will be extracted. You have a lot of transformations that are being used here. So these are all the set of transformations that are used where you can transform the data, and we load the data into the target tables. So this is what you call it as the ETL process, and the ETL process within the Powercenter we call it as mapping. Right? So within the Informatica Powercenter, it contains a set of designing things, and it contains a set of administrative things where you can do the ETL process called as a mapping. All right. Yes. So we have different versions of Informatica Powercenter that are observed here. So you can see there are Informatica is started with 6 version that is released in 2002, and we have 7 version which is in 2004, and 8 version which is released in 2006, and we have 9 version that is released in December 2009, and the latest version that is released is 9.6 that is observed in February 2014. And we have the different products of Informatica Corporation that is released. So basically Informatica Corporation is a company which is founded in 1993 in the Redwood city of Los Angeles of California. So it has extended its hands in various components within the data warehouse. So these are the different components which is released by Informatica Corporation that are playing a major role within the data warehousing environment. So like you can see here, the different products are like Informatica Powercenter, we have data quality, PowerExChange, master data management, right? So data masking, data virtualization, complex event management, is complex event processing, and the cloud computing, right? So these are all the different products which have been released by Informatica Corporation. So out of which the Informatica Powercenter is a widely used process across all the data warehousing projects. So why it is widely used process, we'll try to understand that. So you can see these are all the different products that we have. So you can see cloud data integration. It's like we can access the data from any cloud application, as well as we can load the data into the cloud application also. So we have Informatica Data Quality, which is the profiling tool, and the complex event processing. We have master data management, B2B data exchange, and you can see so enterprise data integration means like so we can access the data from any kind of source system. We can load the data into any kind of target system. Means we have the Facebook version of Informatica, we have the Twitter version of Informatica, we have LinkedIn version of Informatica. Means that we can access the data from any kind of system. Means it could be in the cloud, it could be in the any of the web services, it could be in any of the social networking sites. We can integrate the data from any kind of source system. Even we can integrate the data from the cloud, and even the partner data can also be integrated. So out of the different products that we have, so we have seen what is the Informatica Powercenter. So Informatica Powercenter is like, it's a data integration tool which will help us to perform the business analysis. And you have another tool called as a PowerExChange. What is this Informatica PowerExChange? So basically, by default, Informatica Powercenter, it can connect to the source systems like databases. It can connect to any of the file. Means you can retrieve the data from the file. Any of the file. It could be a COBOL file or a XML file or any flat file, right? So by default, Informatica Powercenter can read the data from these kind of sources, as well as it can load the data into databases or any kind of files, or the XML files or the CSV files or delimited files that we have. But let's say if your client systems are present in somewhere in special sources like SAP or mainframes or AS400, or when your client is having the unstructured data. So at that time, PowerCenter alone cannot read the data from such kind of systems. So we need the Informatica PowerExChange that has to be integrated with the PowerCenter to read the data from such kind of source system. So PowerExChange also provides the change data capture and the real-time support from the mainframes, SQL Server, and the Oracle databases. Means when I say change data capture, it's like extracting only the change data from the source system is what you call it as incremental data or change data capture. So Informatica PowerExChange also provides the capability of extracting only that change data, which is called as change data capture. So Informatica PowerExChange, when we have the Informatica PowerExChange that has integrated with PowerCenter, we can read the data from any kind of source system. So whatever source system that we have, whether it is any kind of ERP solution or Hadoop or the mainframes or any social networking media, right? So or any enterprise applications, we can read the data from that kind of source system that we have it. So that is the Informatica PowerExChange. So the next product that we have is master data management. So master data management, basically it helps you to consolidate the critical business information, which you call it as a master data. So this master data management is basically, it's an Saperion product that we have. So in in 2010, Informatica Corporation has acquired this master data management from Siberian, and so this master data management is one of the top tool that helps you to maintain the single version of truth across all the critical mission application systems. So you can see there is something called as a master data management hub is there. So we get the data from multiple source system. So we check the truth of the data that we have here, and we update back to the source system the same truth across all the different source systems. So we maintain the master data here in such a way that we have the single version of truth across all the different application systems. So this is what you call it as master data management. And you have, most importantly, data quality, Informatica data quality. So Informatica data quality is like understanding what kind of data is present within the system, and checking how to clean the data and how qualified the data is present within the system. So Informatica data quality will provide you the high quality of the data irrespective of the size, irrespective of the format or the platform or the technology to the business. So it provides the high quality of the data to the business. So it helps in validating the address information mainly, and cleansing the business data, and even implementing the data governance practice. So basically, why I'm saying in specific the address information is like, so Informatica has acquired a tool called as a address doctor. So address doctor is the tool that basically contains the address details of exact address information of some of the countries, like more than 100 countries. Address doctor has the exact address information. So this address doctor functionality has been embedded with the Informatica data quality, so that we can find the exact address, and we can clean the data accordingly, and we can set some rules on the source data that we have in order to maintain the integrity within the source system. So basically, Informatica data quality is like it's a process of checking how the quality of data is present within the system. It's a kind of data profiling tool that we have it, right? So when we talk about the Informatica data Powercenter architecture, so it's a kind of service-oriented architecture where Informatica Powercenter is built. When I say service-oriented architecture, it's like it contains the group of services. Informatica Powercenter contains a group of services which communicate with each other. Means one service will give the request, and the other service will provide the response accordingly. So the communication could involve the simple the communication between the services could involve the simple data passing, or it could be like more than it could be more like receiving the request and performing the response accordingly. So the main aim is that to provide the good performance and perform the high availability of the tool, which we use the service-oriented architecture for that. So service-oriented architecture is like much like it's contains a group of services which helps you to perform the high availability activity within the Powercenter, right? And these are the components that we have within the Powercenter. So basically, when we talk about the Powercenter components, there are two kinds of components are present, right? Two kinds of components are present within the Powercenter. One is the client component, and another one is the server component. You can see these are all the client tools that we have. These are all the client tools that we have, and these are all the server tools that we have. So using the client tools and with the help of server components, we extract the information from any kind of source system, and we load the data into the target system. So with respect to the transformation will be done at the Informatica Powercenter memory. So the transformation will be done always in the ETL memory. So these are the client components that we have. So basically we have four client components are present. One is Powercenter Repository Manager, Powercenter Designer, and Powercenter Workflow Monitor, and PowerCenter Workflow Manager. So these 4 client tools, as an Informatica developer, we are going to work only on these 4 client tools predominantly in order to create the ETL programs which are called as mappings. Right? So we create the ETL programs which are called as mappings. We run the ETL programs here, and thereby we can check even how the statistics of the ETL are present. Means how many rows are extracted, how many rows are actually loaded, how many rows are rejected. So all these kinds of activities we can do within the Informatica Powercenter client components. So these 4 are the client components where the developer is going to predominantly work on. And we have some of the server components are also present. As we understood before, so Informatica Powercenter is built on the service-oriented architecture. We have some set of services are present within the server components. One is repository service and another one is a integration service. So basically repository service is responsible for managing the connection with the PowerCenter client tools. It manages the connection with the PowerCenter client tools as well as the repository database. So we have here a new technology called as a repository database. So this repository database basically it contains the metadata of the PowerCenter. It contains the metadata of the PowerCenter. Means that, let's say we have created a mapping within the PowerCenter client tools. So the repository service will store that mapping metadata into the repository database. And we have another service called as an integration service. So integration service is responsible for running the mappings. Means it is a ETL engine that performs the ETL process. So we can manage all the scheduling and execution of the workflows or the execution of the ETL jobs within the PowerCenter by using the integration service. So integration service, it can start any number of ETL process either concurrently or sequentially, and we can even perform the partitions within the we can even perform the partitions or parallelism within the PowerCenter. And this is the architecture of Informatica Powercenter that we have. So we have observed, so these are all the server tools or the server components, and this is the client tool. This is the client tool that we have it. So within the Informatica Powercenter client tools, we are going to create all our ETL programs, or we design all the ETL programs, and we can run the ETL programs within the client. And within the PowerCenter server, we have the major component called as a domain. So domain is nothing but it's the fundamental unit or the primary unit for managing and administrating all the services within the PowerCenter. So it is basically the collection of the groups. It's a collection of nodes and the services. So let's say you are installing Informatica Powercenter in one server or in one physical workstation. So when you are installing PowerCenter, it is nothing but you are setting up the domain. So within the domain, in order to perform the data integration, we need 2 services to perform the data integration. 2 mandatory services. What are the two mandatory services? It is like integration service and the repository service. Within the domain, we are going to create an integration service and the repository service for the purpose of data integration. Right? So when you create these services within the domain, we can perform the ETL process. So we will configure the same services that we have created within the domain into the PowerCenter client tools so that we can manage to create the ETL process. So repository service, you can see it has the connectivity with the PowerCenter client. So whenever you create anything within the PowerCenter client, whenever you create any ETL process within the PowerCenter client, so the repository service, it manages the connectivity with the PowerCenter client and it stores that metadata into the repository. So this repository is nothing but it's a database that we have. It could be in any of the RDBMS like SQL Server or Oracle or Sybase. So we can have the database within that. So this database is called as a repository database, which contains the metadata of the PowerCenter client. So it is mandatory that before the PowerCenter installation, we need the database installation for that, because we have some of the domain tables which contains the domain information. So in order to store the domain information, we need even the domain database also, right? So for the domain database and for the repository database, the prerequisite is that we should need the database installation prior to the Informatica Powercenter installation. So we can set up two schemas within the database. Within a single database, we can set up two schemas. One schema is for having the domain data, another schema is for having the repository data. So repository data, in the sense, it's the metadata of the Powercenter client tools. It's the metadata of the mappings that we create within the Powercenter client tools where you can store. So domain related data will be present in the domain schema. It contains the data related to all the services. It contains the data related to all the nodes and all within the domain. So domain is nothing but it's a collection of nodes and the services. Means when you're installing Powercenter in a particular workstation, that workstation is called as a node. That workstation is called as a node. So node is nothing but it's a logical representation of a machine. So a machine in which the Powercenter is installed is called as a node. So on the node, a domain will be set up. So within the domain, we can configure all the integration service and the repository service for performing the data integration. So you can see the communication between the Powercenter client and the Powercenter server. So this is the server, will be done by using the TCP/IP protocols. So when the servers are present, when the servers are or the workstations are present within the LAN, it uses the TCP protocols. When they are present within the WAN, it uses the Internet protocol, right? So the communication between the Powercenter client and the server will be done by using the TCP/IP protocols. All right. So we create the ETL process here. So whenever you run the ETL process, the integration service, you can see it contains the connectivity with this workflow manager and the workflow monitor. So it contains the connectivity with the workflow manager and the workflow monitor. So whenever you run the ETL process within the workflow manager, so the integration service, it accesses the details of that particular ETL process from the repository database using the repository service, and it uses the native drivers to connect to that particular source systems to extract the data, and it performs the transformation within the ETL memory, and it loads the data into the target with using the same native drivers of the ODBC connections to the targets. You can see even the communication between the services will also happen on the same TCP/IP protocols. So in order to access this domain, we have something called as a administration console. So using this administration console, we can basically access this domain that we have, and we can create all the services and the nodes within the domain, right? So that so domain is nothing but it's a centralized part of the Powercenter, where you can administer and where you can manage all the Powercenter services. All the services within the Powercenter you can manage, right? So this is what you call it as a Powercenter domain. So domain is basically it's the administration of the Powercenter, and it's a primary unit for administration of the services within the Powercenter. And you have something called as a node. Node is nothing but it's a logical representation of a machine within the domain. And a domain can contain any number of nodes. It can contain any number of nodes, basically. And when you have more than one node within the domain, so we can configure the load balancing also. So basically, when you talk about the load balancing, so integration service is the one which runs the ETL process, right? So when you have multiple nodes are present, basically when you run the ETL process, you can share the load of that particular ETL process across multiple nodes. So when I say node is nothing but it's the logical representation of a machine, right? So a domain can contain any number of nodes, where one node will act as a master gateway node for that. So master gateway node, basically it receives the request it receives the request from the PowerCenter client, and that node will route that request to the respective service. And you have something called as a server manager. So server manager is a component of the domain. So basically it will not appear outside, but it is built into the domain in order to start the services and manage the services within the PowerCenter domain. Okay, so server manager, basically it manages all the services within the domain. And you can see this is the Informatica administrator. So Informatica administrator is nothing but it's a administration console. It's an administration console which is a web-based administrative tool where you can access the domain. You can see here. So this is the domain. My domain name is like domain_goodhearts. So this is the node 01_goodhearts. So node is nothing but it's a logical representation of a machine. And on top of this domain, on top of this node, we can create two services, two mandatory services here, like a repository service and the integration service. A repository service and the integration service we can configure within the domain in order to perform the data integration. So how do you access this domain? By using the any of the browser. So it's basically a thin client. So this is also a client tool that we have, which is a thin client. So when I say thin client, you do not require any installation for that. You just require any of the browser, whether it is Internet Explorer or the Mozilla Firefox or Google Chrome. You can access this client tool. You can access this client tool by using any of the browser. But when you talk about this PowerCenter client tool, so this is a thick client. When I say thick client, it is like you need the installation for this. When I say thick client, you need the installation, separate installation for this PowerCenter client tools in order to access them. Right? So Informatica Administrator is a web-based client tool that we have, where you can manage all the services and where you can create all the services, and you can even perform the security as well. You can even perform the security like creating the users, creating the groups, right, and creating the roles. All those things can be, and the administrator activities can be done by using this Informatica Administrator. So before 9 version, it is so this tool is this web-based tool is called as the Admin Console. From 9 onwards, the name has been changed to Informatica Administrator. And so Informatica Powercenter, most importantly, it even contains the parallel processing. It supports the parallelism. So when I say parallelism, it is like we can run the processes in parallel. So basically, whenever you run the ETL process, so the integration service which runs the ETL process, it creates 3 important threads. One is the reader thread, another one is the transformation thread, another one is a writer thread. So reader thread is responsible for reading the data from the source. Transformation thread is responsible for transforming the data, and the writer thread is responsible for writing the data to the target. So whenever you configure an ETL process, yes, we can configure that ETL to have multiple threads. We can configure that ETL to have the multiple threads. So that process is called as a parallel processing or the multi-threading process. So we have a feature called as a partitioning within the PowerCenter, where you can have different threads to perform the parallelism. So we can partition the ETL process in such a way that we can have multiple reader threads where simultaneously it reads a huge amount of data, and you have writer threads where you can simultaneously load a huge amount of data, and you can have even the transformation threads also there where it transforms the data by using multiple threads. Right? So while flowing the data from source to the target, we can configure this parallelism option, which is called as a partitioning option within the PowerCenter. Right? And the most important features that we have within the PowerCenter is that we have a single administration console for, single point of centralized administration console is there for managing all the services within the PowerCenter. And basically within the admin console itself, within the Informatica Administrator itself, we can provide the security, like we can create the users for every person, and we can create a groups, like we can have multiple groups within the PowerCenter. Means we basically have multiple teams, like the developer team, the testing team, and the production team. So we can create groups accordingly, and so based on the group, we can assign the privileges by creating the roles also, right? So this security also we can provide within the PowerCenter admin console itself, and we have something called as a single sign-on. Means when you talk about the client tools that we have 4 different client tools are present. When you sign in into a specific client tool, it's not required to sign in into other client tools. So once you sign in, you can use the, basically Informatica inbuilt, it will it has the functionality to take the same authentication to the other client tools also. So it's a single sign-on for all the client tools, and we do not require any separate versioning tools for that for performing the different versions. So Informatica Powercenter has the inbuilt version tool where you can have multiple versions of the code. So multiple versions of the ETL program, multiple versions of the mappings we can have within the Informatica Powercenter. So when you have the version control in place, this versions of a single code, where if you want to go into the when you are making the changes, you can you can perform the specific you can perform the check-in accordingly, so that a version will be created. So if you want to go to the previous version also, you can perform by using the version control. And you have something called as a grid environment. So when I say grid environment, it is like a grid is nothing but it's a collection of nodes. It is a collection of nodes within the domain. So when you have more number of nodes are present within the domain, so basically you can perform the load balancing across all the different nodes. So based on the resources that are available in the nodes, the load balancing, which is the component of the integration service, it will balance the load accordingly to the different nodes that we have within the grid environment, right? And you have something called as a scheduling tool. Inbuilt scheduling tool is also present. So Informatica provides the inbuilt scheduling tool where you can schedule the ETL process accordingly. So we can switch, right? So Informatica Powercenter also provides the inbuilt scheduling tool where you can schedule the ETL process at a different timings, and we can use the scheme schedule to other ETL process also within the same repository service. So Informatica also provides the inbuilt scheduling tool also. So we do not require any third-party scheduling tool. We do not require any third-party versioning tool also not required for performing all these activities. So these are the important features that we have within the Powercenter. And you have multiple data integration tools or the multiple ETL tools that we have in the market. Like we have Oracle Data Integrator, we have a data stage which is from IBM, we have Ab Initio from Ab Initio Corporation. Likewise, we have multiple ETL tools that we have within the market. So though you have those many ETL tools, why you have to go for Informatica Powercenter? So basically, Informatica Powercenter is a it's a very widely used tool across all the Fortune 500 companies or the Fortune 500 customers. It is a proven technology leader, and it contains the track record of continuous innovation. Means whatever technology that you take in the current environment, like your source system could be any kind of ERP, your source system could be any database, your source system could be any flat file, and the recent big data also. Whatever technology that you take in the current market, Informatica Powercenter has a plugin adapter to that. When I say plugin adapter, it's like you can connect to that particular source system by giving the connection details, so that you can start retrieving the data from that source system. Right? In the same way, you can even load the data into any kind of target system. Means you can perform the loading process to any ERP solution, or you can perform the loading process to any flat file or the relational database, and you can perform the loading process to any kind of web services also. right? So we can read the data from any kind of source system, as well as we can load the data into any kind of target systems that we have. So if you take example of any other ETL tools, let's say you have Oracle Data Integrator, which is from Oracle Corporation. So it can do the ETL process mostly from Oracle to Oracle. So similarly, SAP also have the ETL tool, which helps to perform the SAP data integration. But when you talk about the Informatica Powercenter, which is the data integration tool, so it is available for any kind of source system, and it is available for any kind of target system for their business. So it's a it's a tool that is even certified by the SAP also to extract and push the data from the SAP and into the SAP, and it has a long history of the customer success that we have it, right? And we have a great career opportunities on the Informatica, and it's a robust tool that we have where it can be used in any kind of environment, like it can be used in a Windows environment, and you have Powercenter can be used in any of the Unix version, like it can be used in Solaris or Linux or Red Hat Linux. So you can use the Powercenter in any of the operating system that you have it. So that is the reason. So why you have a wide range of projects on Powercenter, and you have more number of opportunities also present on the Powercenter. So these are all the list of customers that we have. A lot of customers are there, but I have just categorized according to some departments. So you have, these are all the different financial services who are the customers, and you have these are the different public sectors. These are the healthcare customers, manufacturing customers, retail customers, telecommunications, all the utilities like Duke, American Electric Power. So these are all the different customers that we have where Informatica is standing with. And we have different job roles that are present, like the entry level. So when we talk about the entry level, it's like the fresher level, where you call them as data warehouse developer or the ETL developer. And you have the intermediate level, which is like 4 to 7 years of experience. We call them as ETL. So the senior ETL developer or the Informatica designer or the Informatica administrator. So the people who has more than 4 years of experience will be given a chance to work on even the administrator also, right? And you have the senior level where you call them as ETL architect or the Informatica architect or the technical manager. So these are the different job roles that we have. So in the current market, we have a lot of opportunities for the Informatica developers, right? So Informatica Powercenter is basically used in two kinds of projects mainly. One is like the data warehousing projects, which will be useful for analyzing the business operations. You can see you have different source systems are present. We use the Informatica Powercenter to read the data from them and to load the data into the data warehouse, so which will be useful for the purpose of analysis. So this is the data warehousing projects that we have, where we load the data into a single database, which will support for the business analysis. And another kind of project is like a data migration project or the data integration project. Like so, you can see here we have two systems are present, system A and system B. Let's say you have the billing system is present, and you wanted to migrate that billing system, let's say from SAP to PeopleSoft. So Informatica Powercenter will also help us to read the data from any kind of source system, as well as load the data into any kind of target system. So we can migrate the data from one system to another system. So when we, in terms of migration, we can do the migration from application level to the application level, from a database to other database, maybe from let's say from Oracle to Teradata. We can migrate the data from any kind of target system from the source system. So that is the reason we have more number of projects that we have that are implemented on Informatica Powercenter. So these are like so most likely we have data warehousing projects where the Powercenter is widely used. Right? So when you talk about the prerequisites of the Informatica Powercenter, it's like we need the good understanding of the SQL, and if you know the procedural language of SQL also, that is good, and we need the good knowledge on Unix commands and the Unix scripting. So these are the prerequisites for learning Informatica Powercenter. Any good knowledge on any database. It could be Oracle or SQL Server or Teradata, mostly Teradata or Sybase, right? So you can have good knowledge on SQL and the procedural language, and so mostly Informatica servers are present in the Unix environment, so it's required to have even the Unix commands and the Unix scripting knowledge also. So the course is basically, the training program is divided into 3 modules, like the data warehousing module, Informatica Powercenter developer module, and the admin module. So for the first 4 to 5 days of the training sessions, you're going to understand more about all the data warehousing concepts, like what is a data warehouse, what is the OLTP system, what is the OLAP system, what are the difference between the OLTP and the OLAP, what are the advantages, what are the different author views, what are the architectures, what kind of modeling will be done, right? So, and what are the tables that we have, so different tables, so different schemas. So all these concepts will be discussed as a part of the first 4 to 5 days, and then we'll go to the Informatica admin related concepts. We'll go in depth with the discussion of the architecture of the Power Center, and installation. Will show the installation, will show the configuration, how it is there, and so how do we create the services, what are the different services that can be created, and what are the different creation of the users, creation of the roles. So we can manage the security by creating all these things within the domain, and in-depth knowledge about Informatica Powercenter admin console, and what are the different command line utilities are there, how you can migrate the ETL programs from one environment to another environment. Like so we basically have multiple environments within the software development lifecycle, like development, testing, and production environment. So we basically develop the mappings within the development environment. So once you develop that, we migrate that ETL programs into the testing environment in order to find out what are the defects that we have within the ETL program. So this migration also is a part of admin concept, and you can see the different backup and recovery strategies that we have, and understanding the Power Center repository manager is a part of the admin related concept. So this will be discussed about for the next 5 days. And so developer concepts is about, it's like it's a basic and advanced also is clubbed into this developer concept, like overview of Power Center, what are the ETL fundamentals, and in-depth knowledge about each client tool that we have, like a designer, a workflow manager, and the workflow monitor, and what are the different transformation techniques that we have within the Power Center. So basically, Power Center has a rich number of transformations are present. So where each transformation will do a different functionality. So we have multiple transformations are present within the designer. So where we have to understand each transformation in depth. So we have the concept of parameters and the variables, and we'll see even how you can perform the error handling and how you can perform the recovery. So what are the different cache concepts that we have? So performance tuning. What are the reusability activities that you can perform within the Power Center, and the ETL real-time scenarios? What are the best practices, and even the project implementation will also be discussed as a part of the developer concept. So altogether we have 25 sessions of classes will be there. So every day it is like 1 hour 15 minutes. So 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes the classes will be taken from Monday to Friday EST, and this will be shown, the Informatica Power Center concepts will be shown on my system, and so you can face the practicals, you can do the practicals in the VMware that is provided by the BigClasses. So BigClasses is going to configure the VMware software in your machines, where it contains the Informatica 9.5.1, which is the latest version, along with the Oracle database. Under the Unix environment, you have all the softwares will be configured by the BigClasses in the VMware software. So you can do all the practical sessions within the VMware software. So as a part of the training, we are going to give all these materials, right? So we understand the tool using the case study, and we have we will provide all this database material, SQL material, and Informatica material, all the lab information, lab material, and most importantly, it's after class time support. So we have 24/7 support also provided to you, to the students, and all the technical interview questions, technical scenarios, Unix material, and as a part of the training, we are going to give even the knowledge on the Unix environment also. So we'll give the knowledge on heads up on Unix commands and the Unix scripting, and what scripting we use, what commands we use, and how the environment looks, and even the daily assignment and the daily notes will also be provided as a part of the training, right? And you may be curious about how the Informatica Powercenter admin console looks. So this is the Informatica admin console that we have it. Let me log in again. So we need to, so Informatica administrator. So we have basically three roles are there, two roles are there. One is Informatica developer and Informatica administrator. So Informatica administrator, he will be more working on this Informatica administrator web-based tool, which contains a set of services. You can see. So this is the domain that we have. So this is the domain. So within the domain, we have all these services are present. We have all these services are present. You can see this is the node. So on this particular node, so what is a node? A node is nothing but a logical representation of a mission, right? So on this particular node called as good hearts, the domain is set up. So we have all these services are present. So this service is nothing but a repository service, and this service is nothing but a integration service. So for performing the data integration, we need to have all these services in place. I mean, just the Powercenter repository service and the integration service. So once you configure these services, once you create these services within the domain, you have to configure the services within the Powercenter client. So you can see, so these are the services that you have configured. So this is the repository service. So when you wanted to create any ETL tool, when you wanted to create any ETL program called as mapping, so you just have to go into this client tools, connect to that respective repository service where you have the permission, and you can start creating the ETL programs like this, right? And you can see this is the ETL program that we have, and within the ETL program we have some of the components that has to be created, like a mapping session and the workflow, right? So whenever you run this particular workflow, what happens? So the integration service basically it reads the data from the source and it loads the data to the target. So you can see it is running. So who is going to do that? So the integration service is going to do that. So this is how you have the Informatica Powercenter that is present, right? Yes. So you can see the statistics, like why the session is failed, why it is succeeded, all those things you can perform within the Powercenter itself. You can see the log information also from the Powercenter. Yes, you can see the log information. So this is the log information that you have. All right. Yes. Yes. So you may go with any other questions now. So any questions, sir?
What about shell scripting? Is that covered in this session? Why we need a Unix scripting for this?
Unix scripting in the sense, sometimes there are activities where you cannot do that from the Powercenter. Means if you have to copy the files from one location to another location. So if you wanted to download the files, if you wanted to zip the files, and if you want to send them to the archive location, if you want to validate some information within the files, so all these things you cannot do that from the Powercenter. So for that purpose, we have the shell scripting.
Okay.
So shell scripting in the sense, it depends upon the Informatica server. It depends upon the place where your Informatica server is there. So if your Informatica server is present within the Unix environment, you are going to use the shell scripting for that. If your Informatica server is present within the Windows environment, you will use the bash scripting. So you have some set of bash commands where you are going to use that. Alright. So as a part of the training, we are going to give you a heads up on even the Unix commands and the Unix scripting also.
Okay.
It's a real-time oriented program that we are going to perform. So we'll see that.
Okay.
All right. Yes. So thanks for attending this webinar, and so I hope this webinar is clear for you. And yeah, we'll sure meet up again. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time.